thank you to Liquor Express and their sister, The Open Bottle, for sponsoring this week's episode. You guys fucking rock. Keep it up. Today we're going to talk about their single barrel pick, where they teamed up with HBA. HBA is Huntsville Bourbon Aficionados. That's a spirit enthusiast group on Facebook, local to Huntsville. So yeah, we're going to talk about their joint barrel pick from Old Forester. First of all, what is a barrel pick? What does a single barrel indicate? This is essentially when a spirit producer sells an entire barrel to a private company or a group of individuals, whatever. So not every spirit brand offers these single barrel programs, but Old Forester, being super fucking old, does offer them. And so basically what happened on this one is Liquor Express, Al and I would assume, and HBA, I'm not sure who represented them, if it was Nate or Steven or whoever, basically picked out some various samples or scent samples of different barrels that are in the warehouses of Old Forester. They taste them, they talk about them, decide which one they want, and they literally get the juice pulled out of the barrel and bottled. So this is uncut, raw fucking bourbon from Old Forester. And you know it's uncut because it's 65.9% alcohol, which actually influenced why I'm using this glassware instead of my typical kind of tightly shaped wine glass thingamabob. I don't even know what it's called anymore. Rastel Teku, maybe. But I'm not using that like high concentrated glassware because it'll burn my nose hairs out of my fucking skull. So I'm gonna go with something a bit more wider, a bit more open, so I can hopefully sift through the booze and get to what's underneath. It's worth noting that barrel strength, these uncut spirits, are not for everyone because they are strong. You need to really strengthen your palate. It needs to be very exposed to lots of different spirits to be able to, again, get through the heat of the alcohol into what the spirit is actually communicating to your taste receptors. Old Forester is one of the oldest, I think actually is the oldest bottled bourbon in production right now. It started in, I think, 1870. These guys actually went through Prohibition and kept producing. They, I think, got some sort of medical license to produce during Prohibition. So these guys have a long history. They are owned by Brown-Forman, and if you're not familiar with who that is, this is a big publicly traded company now that owns Jack Daniels, Early Times, Woodford Reserve, Old Forester. So these guys have been in the whiskey game for a long time, and they have a very diverse portfolio. So in the world of bourbon, I would argue Old Forester can pretty much stand toe-to-toe with any classic bourbon producer. These guys do the infamous birthday bourbon, which is the cool ass bottle with, kind of looks like a genie lamp thing. Fucking delicious, hard to get bourbon. And they also have this cool new line where they've got the years on it, the Prohibition, the 1896, 87, 97, 1920, 1910. And each year represents something significant in the company's history. So I'm excited to try this. I can already tell you in advance that I don't typically drink uncut spirits that you can set on fire without ice of some kind. But I want to taste it neat just to give you the full version of it. But I probably would put a big hunk of ice with a spirit like this if I were to enjoy it myself in a natural setting, not in front of a camera. But yeah, let's go and get right into the tasting of this Old Forester single barrel selection. So here you have it. I can smell it from here. It's so loud. These big uncut bourbons, or uncut whatever spirit it is, are very loud. They fill up a room. Light brown color, looks like, a straight bourbon should look. Ooh, that's pretty nice. I'm very glad that I decided to use this particular glassware and not my usual. This just gives it more room for that alcohol to kind of spread out and not, again, burn your nose hairs out. But in this glassware, it's actually a really nice aroma, and you don't get the heat, which is very surprising. Definitely a candied nut thing going on. Very nutty, like pretty cooked down caramels. There's some woodiness, of course. Ooh, this almost has a peach apricot thing going on. This kind of cool stone fruit character on the nose. Much fruitier than I expected it to be. Nutty and fruity. That's cool. You know, a lot of bourbons can be kind of in one direction, right? You know, there's usually a lot of like vanilla and apple and woodiness, that oaky character. So it's nice to get a variant on that kind of traditional bourbon feel. And that's why I like, and all these aficionados really like single barrel selections, because you get to see a spirit in a different form. Because most of the spirits we're drinking are blends, and they're made to be very consistent. So you don't really get all the little pieces of it, the little nuances of it that lead up to it becoming X brand. Yes, these are very popular right now in the spirit enthusiast communities, and rightfully so. Powerful. Big, not punchy though. This kind of reminds me of, oh god, what the fuck is the name? Abelard Abunda, which is a single malt Scotch distillery in Speyside, and the Abunda is kind of like this. It's a single barrel selection, and it changes every batch. This reminds me of that because you got all this big body and booze, but it's elegant. It's refined. Think of a really structured Cabernet, like a great California Cabernet that's huge and bold, but still refined and elegant. They did that here. Lots of fruit on the nose. The palate had some fruit as well, actually. Less of the candied nut. Super long finish. Very, very long finish. As you would expect with this booze, you know, it kind of penetrates into your palate and just hangs out there. But honestly, it's surprisingly gentle, right? It's, with this level of alcohol, I just expected it to be more graphic and intense, and it's not. It's, you can tell there's a level of mastery here in this spirit, which you would expect, right? These guys are 150 years old, so you would think that they'd gotten it down by now. It's funny, actually, a while, maybe 15 years ago or so, maybe a little bit earlier, Old Forester was, you know, kind of like Four Roses used to be. It was just, you know, a lot of people didn't really care for it. It had a pretty bad reputation. But in the last 10, 15 years, it's really turned around and is leading, especially in these single barrels. These guys are really, really lifting heavy weight. I see these all the time, these different selections of it. So kudos to Old Forester, man. Great fucking work. Great mouthfeel, kind of oily. Really hits your tongue and then just spreads out and envelops the rest of your palate. There's some sweetness here. Again, that candied. Wow, there's a lot of oiliness. Really coating. Yeah, still that kind of candied, nut candied fruit thing. Not as much oak and wood on the palate. I detected a bit more on the nose, but on the palate, it's really fruit forward. Really fascinating example of a single barrel. Great fucking work. But yeah, thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. Thank you again, Liquor Express and the Open Bottle, for sponsoring this episode. You guys fucking rock. And HBA for being involved in the pick. I know you guys have some excellent palates out there, so keep up the good work. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. And if you really liked it, please go to patreon.com/theethanolreview and show some money support. I'll see you next week.